Okay, good morning. My name is Kevin Frank. This is our weekly update with weather conditions with Dr. Jeff Andresen. Today is Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. So, Jeff, we are almost to the start of the school season, at least at MSU. I know a lot of schools have already started, it seems like, and summer is quickly coming to a close. And it seems like it's gotten dry all of a sudden again. So we've gone
It
back and
has.
forth between dry to soaking wet to back to dry. So look forward to hearing your report today.
Appreciate that. And I think summer is the word summer is probably the key word here, looking at our outlook here, because it's going to be the next week, regardless if we're in or out of school, is going to be more summer-like than it is fall, and probably beyond that as well. I want to start with a couple of images here at the front, I think, which pretty much tell the story here of much of the upcoming week or so. The image on the left is a jet stream forecast of the next 5 days. That's the average. And then the image on the right-hand side are the resulting temperature anomalies, departures from normal at the surface. And again, what you look at this one on the left-hand side here, and what you can see is a fairly large upper air ridge across the central and eastern US and a trough out in the west. A little bit different than we had during a lot of the growing season this year. But the key thing is that Michigan and much of the Great Lakes region, not all, if not all the Great Lakes region, here underneath a big ridge, and underneath that very strong likelihood of warmer than normal temperatures. You can see cooler than normal as you go off to the far west and north of Michigan. But again, a fairly straightforward outlook. But as you mentioned, it has been a dry week. And I'm going to start here looking at that. The past week, significantly warmer than normal, generally from 4 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit above the long term, with a little bit higher departures in the northern part of the state. On the right-hand side here, you'll note that I've scaled the map here for the precipitation totals for the week, which go through yesterday morning a little differently, because there's a lot of interesting features on this map. And I just wanted, if you've been watching the news, you know that there have been some crazy things going on with regard to precipitation. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of those. But just go back to your comment. It was an unusually dry week in Michigan. You can see here in the middle, there were a couple spots in the southeastern lower and across far northern lower where we picked up a quarter to half an inch, but that was definitely the exception. Many areas here, no color at all, again, indicating dry conditions for the vast majority of the week. And remember, that came on the heels for many spots of a very, very wet week. And I have noted here with some not happiness that all of that rain, at least we had here in the mid-Michigan area, Hazlet area, has hatched a new crop, apparently a brood of mosquitoes. And the insect pressure that we saw earlier in the year, we've in the last day or two has returned. So that's a not so good follow-up from the heavy rain here of a couple weeks ago. But talking about heavy rain and the lack of it here, look off to our south and east. Lots and lots of colors on this map. Just a couple things of note here. One, this is truly, well, it's tragic, but the torrential rainfall and just catastrophic flooding in portions of western Tennessee to the west of Nashville. You can see that very well indicated here, this big area with dark colors. Some cases over 15 inches of rain fell in a 24-hour period. Matter of fact, the highest observation right now, I believe, is just about 17.8 inches that fell. There were a couple observations of 17 inches in a 24-hour period. That's just, well, it's way, way off the charts. It would break the state record in Tennessee for their all-time 24-hour precipitation total, I believe, by at least 3 inches. So not just break it, but shatter it. And to give you some idea here for reference, in Michigan, our all-time record 24-hour precipitation total is just a little bit under 13 inches. But again, very, very difficult to do that. The environment that was related to this was one of very extreme high humidities. We've been talking about that the last couple of weeks, and that was certainly in place there. And then training thunderstorms that basically form and then move repeatedly over the same areas over and over again. That's what led to this this very, well, again, just abnormal rainfall event. But note that there's also a large area here, lots of yellows and reds, at least 2 to 4 inches, in some cases more than 8 inches of rain fell along the Appalachians all the way up into the Northeast. That, in contrast, was related to some tropical activity. First, the remnants of Tropical Storm Ken, which made landfall in the panhandle of Florida here over a week ago, and then moved up the Appalachians. That one led to, again, several inches of rain, especially here down in the middle part of the Appalachians. And then, of course, Hurricane Henri, which made landfall in Rhode Island as a strong tropical storm here this past weekend. That most of this color that you see here is related to that. And both these storms events, which combined for very, very heavy rainfall totals, they came on the heels of yet heavy rain before that. So many areas here in the Mid-Atlantic and in the Marva area are looking at all-time new records for rainfall, both July and August, the months of August, just extraordinarily wet part of the country here. And this, again, this map doesn't quite do it justice, but it's heavy rain over a very, very large area for a number of reasons. And again, Michigan, at least for the last week, has been left out. We will see some changes, though, in terms of rainfall probabilities. A couple of things here, too. A little climatology thrown in here today. We talked about our warmer than average or warmer than normal average temperatures. And if we look at where we are currently, the thick blue line here on the late part of August, where should we be seeing normals? This is for Lansing. It's fairly representative of the central and southern part of the state, but you can see our normal high temperature now about 80 degrees, and our low minimum temperature in the upper 50s, around 58. So you'd be a little cooler than that if you go to the northern part of the state, and vice versa as you head down to the southern border. But again, given where we've been, especially with nighttime temperatures, in many cases only in the upper 60s to near 70, and more coming, we're going to be significantly above normal here for again much of the upcoming week. Degree day totals as a result of this. This is the seasonal total beginning on the 1st of March through the present. We put more onto our surplus. Our seasonal surplus grew this past week. On the right-hand side here now, you can see that most areas of the state are pretty close to a full week to maybe a week and a half calendar time ahead of normal, given that surplus, with more expected coming up in the outlook. Soil moisture conditions, given a dry week, we lost ground relative to climatology over most of the state. You can see that departure from normal is the largest across western sections of upper Michigan, and then a couple areas of note in the lower peninsula, especially the Thumb, but also increasingly down in the southwest corner of the state. You can see that with the vegetation drought response index here on the left, indicating a little bit of lack of water for vegetation to work with. And you can also see that here, the latest soil moisture percentile, this is plant extractable in the top 3 feet, has shown up a little bit below normal now in mainly the southern third or so of lower Michigan, or at least portions of that. So certainly lost a little bit of ground rel, but most of the state remains at, or even some cases in the northern lower, we still are ahead of normal where we typically are this time of the year. Well, I mentioned summer-like, well, hopefully does it justice for our forecast. What we're going to see here over the next several days is almost a sort of a rinse and repeat type of thing. There are a couple frontal boundaries here you can see on the weather map from this morning, but because of that jet stream pattern that I showed early on, mostly being southwesterly across the area, even though there is some cooler, a little bit drier air from Canada trying to make its way into the Great Lakes with that southwesterly flow, it's not going to make it very far. That's the bottom line. So we will see some distinct differences between the southern part of the state and the northern part of the state here. But the frontal boundary that comes down it's going to move to the south, and then it's going to be pushed back to the north and then return back south. This repeat performance with the frontal boundary there will lead to an almost daily chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms here beginning later today, but especially tomorrow, and then on through the remainder of the work week and into the weekend. I will say probably at least through Sunday. So again, especially for the central and southern part of the state, which will probably be closer to the frontal boundary, almost a daily occurrence. Now, does that mean everyone's going to see rain? No, it's going to be the word scattered is important. So most days we will be looking at a 30 or 40% chance. So again, not everybody will see rainfall, and the totals will probably be highly variable over space. The first part of the first precipitation associated with this fairly active weather pattern you can see currently on radar down on the lower left-hand side here is just off to our west. That will affect areas of western upper Michigan here, which could use certainly the rain and the water here during the afternoon hours. Probably will dissipate before it makes its way into the lower peninsula, but there will be redevelopment here later on tonight and tomorrow. So don't worry, there are going to be several impulses and several chances for precip as it goes through. By tomorrow morning, you can see another frontal boundary here. They put the map puts scattered convection showers and thunderstorms over most of lower Michigan. And I think tomorrow we'll have a fairly good, maybe a little bit higher than that 30 to 40% chance, maybe 50-50 odds of precip during the day tomorrow. And then on Thursday, you can see that the frontal boundary actually does make its way down almost to clear the state before it stalls out. And so at least for northern parts of the state, we should see also the other part of this is it's going to be warm. Especially for the next 48 hours with temperatures from, well, the mid and upper 80s north to the low 90s in the south. Combine that with dew point temperatures back up to 70 or even the low 70s. And we're going to have some heat indices during the afternoon hours that probably will approach triple digits, around 100. Maybe a heat advisory might be needed. I would think if it happens, it might be tomorrow on Wednesday. But a couple of very, very warm and uncomfortable days. And then on Thursday, as you can see from the map here, we do get a little bit cooler air move in. It's temporary. So Thursday and Friday will a few degrees cooler, probably low in mid 80s, maybe even some upper 70s in the far north to the mid 80s in the south. And then again on Friday. And then on Saturday, that front moves back up north as a warm front. For many areas of the state, I think late Friday and Saturday probably will be the highest chances for precipitation, especially across northern parts of the state. Some of that could be heavy, is that, again, this frontal boundary, which is depicted here, makes its way northward as a warm front. And then the whole thing repeats itself again by late in the weekend. So, but we will see by the weekend and into early next week, temperatures rise or increase back to above normal levels once again. In terms of precipitation totals, the best chances and the highest totals here are expected across northern and western portions of the state, with a fairly distinct gradient or decrease as you go eastward. So note that even for western upper Michigan here, possibly more than 2 inches are possible here in the upcoming week. A lot of that will be tonight and tomorrow, and then, but even more so late Friday and Saturday, I think, but there'll be more chances than that. And notice here for the eastern part of lower Michigan, only talking about a half an inch or so. So significantly less as you move eastward across the state. And again, not everybody, the totals will probably be variable with space. Potential evapotranspiration rates will be probably a little bit above average given the warmer than normal temperatures, but you can see a fairly broad range ranging from only about 11 or 12 hundredths in the upper peninsula to around 0.16 or 0.17 inches per day in the south. Again, given the warmer than normal temperatures, especially in central and southern areas, we will see above average PET rates here. That's definitely the case here over the next several days. And then into the medium range, not a whole lot of changes are suggested. The jet stream pattern here, a little bit more west to east horizontal, but the jet stream is farther north, the core of it, than it typically is in southern Canada. And as a result of that, we will see very likely above normal or continuation of warmer than normal temperatures. You can see that in the outlook here. Similar forecast for the 8 to 14 day time frame. The one change that we do see relative to the last week or so is that a fairly active storm track with a number of chances for precipitation in this type of pattern right along the US-Canadian border. And as a result of that, they have us in a normal to above normal precipitation total. So a little bit more frequent chances for precip and probably adding up to above normal levels in many cases. And that's a bit of a difference. It does back off a little bit on that in the 8 to 14 day time frame, but the message or that signal is certainly there in the 6 to 10 day time frame. We have a new long lead outlook that was issued last Thursday by NOAA's Climate Prediction Center, and it's pretty consistent with the last couple of months. The outlook for September on the top here, it calls for normal to above normal mean temperatures. That isn't a surprise, especially given the medium range you just saw. What is a change a little bit, note, there's some green in here. And the outlook calls for normal to above normal precipitation totals for September. That's a bit of a new development. We had been in the equal chances category for the last couple of issuances over this last couple of months. And that's actually what we see when we look at the 3-month forecast or outlook for September through November here into the core of the fall. Again, warmer than normal, mean temperatures expected, and then the no direction on precipitation totals, the equal chances. So literally equal chances of below, near, and above normal totals. If you look at each of those, about a third regular probability, no push or direction that way. And that's what the outlooks have called for. One last thing about this is that there is increasing expectation here late in the year that we will see a return of La Nina conditions down in the equatorial Pacific. And if that happens, and the statistics, the odds right now, the forecasts are increasing the likelihood of that happening. That would be a back-to-back. We had it last year. But more often than not, during La Nina winters, we see an active storm track through the Ohio Valley with wide swings in temperatures. So that there's not really a direction in mean temperature forecast, but typically we see above normal precip totals, especially in the second half of the winter. And so that's what our outlooks almost certainly will be calling for. And actually, they may call it a little bit more of a wintry type of forecast than might be the case otherwise. Many times we see greater than normal snowfall totals in the winter with La Nina. We did not, though, last year. Remember, we had a La Nina, a moderate event last year, and we definitely did not see typical La Nina weather conditions. So certainly not a guarantee. Nothing in this business ever is, but the statistics would favor that. Again, that above normal snowfall, especially in the latter half of the winter. That's something we can talk about here as the season moves on. Summarizing here, though, leaving winter behind and coming back to the reality, and that is we've got very summer-like conditions here expected, especially across the southern part of the state. Warm and humid, hot and humid if you're in the far southern part. And a daily chance for showers and thunderstorms. So we will be seeing more in the way of moisture than we saw last week. Medium range guidance essentially calls for more of the same moving into the first week or two of September. And then long lead also still calling for warmer than normal well into the upcoming fall season. And with that, I'll stop and turn it back over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Jeff. So warm summer continues. So those that like the warm weather will continue to enjoy it for a little while before some point fall will roll in.
And hopefully the mosquitoes will roll out one of these days.
Exactly. Well, thanks once again, Jeff. I think we will we'll talk amongst ourselves about our schedule going forward. We'll probably be a little less frequent as we get into the fall, but thanks for your time once again this week.
You bet.
And, look forward to hearing from you again sometime soon. Thank you.
Thanks. My pleasure.